Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chuck It Out, written by Calamity Comet. The captain had asked me to throw the auxiliary life support out the airlock. Chuck it to space, the tertiary life support as well, and the full series of backup comms, and the chairs, and now the... How much does the paint weigh? I did a double check. You mean the buffer paint? Yes! The paint that protects us from cancer-causing cosmic rays and would save us in the event of a solar storm. Yes, that paint! I raised an eyebrow. The paint that stops fires and room ignitions in the event of weapons penetration. Yes, first mate! How much does it weigh? 900 kilos? But I advise heavily that we don't scrape it off, Captain. In the event of a fire, that paint is worth its weight. I must advise there won't be a fire, the captain growled, because I also want you to jettison the oxygen. My jaw hit the floor. I fidgeted with my hair, tying it into a greasy ponytail, while my brain failed to find words. Okay, I'll have the paint scraped off. Good, the captain said. She smiled, sweat dripping down her face. And please ask engineering how much air we should retain. I'd like to dump one of the holding tanks if possible. The head of engineering stared at me. So, she wants us to fight in spacesuits like troglodytes. His eyes spun for a second, and it looked like he might keel over on the spot. The air, he said, circling back to the point for the fifth time. Cap is so Delta V crazy she wants to jettison the air. Now, I've heard it all. I agreed with that sentiment, but as first mate, it was my job to enforce the captain's will. Yes, the air. I need to know how much of our supply we can dump and still make it back to our friendly port. Assuming that we win the upcoming engagement, said the engineer. He looked skeptical. We'll win, I said, painting on a weak smile. But to win, we need more speed for the first combat pass, and that means we gotta be light. So I desperately need to know how much air we can squeak by with. The head of engineering looked pensively at the holding tanks. 10%. I jotted it down, and he nodded again. I wouldn't go lower. We can dump the other holding tank too. That'll just save us at least another 1,200 kilos. Thanks, Craig. I pushed off and flew down the corridor. The gravity generators had been one of the first things we got rid of after all. I stopped myself mid-flight, remembering another message from the captain. One more thing. He looked up, hopeful that it might not be another insane request. Captain needs you to cut out the Whipple shielding on deck C through F. I grabbed a handhold and catapulted myself down the hall, but not before seeing Craig from engineering throw his arms into the air in exasperation. One of the first things they teach you at the Academy in orbit of Mercury is that speed is a space's insurance policy. Delta V, and specifically impulse, are the first words they teach you. Space combat is math and Isaac Newton can't beat. We got our words from the Navy. We got our spirit from the Air Force. If you get into an engagement where you don't come out ahead velocity-wise, you run away. And if you can't run away, you surrender. That's not cowardice. That's the primary law. But our captain saw it differently. I needed all the ancillary view screens and holo displays jettisoned yesterday. Yes, Captain. She pointed at me and then at her wrist again. We've got 120 minutes till the first pass. Don't drag your feet, first mate. I can assure you, my feet never dragged once. I helped the boat swains carry bunks out through the airlock. I directed Marines, who had formed a brigade, to shuffle out the wall paneling. I had the engineers spool up the engines and prepare the weapons. We were cutting it close. 90 minutes and closing. The communications officer was steely cold Chuck Yeager, like usual, but a small wobble in her voice betrayed her feelings. We were cutting off an unprecedented amount of weight. The enemy ship was a campaigner, while our picket ship was made for short hops. The elegant alien ship was designed for proper interstellar campaigns. It makes me sound dim, but I didn't even know which of humanity's many enemies the ship belonged to. So long as we had an approximate data, it didn't matter much. And with what we had, we knew the enemy warship had a Delta V advantage so high that we all winced. By all rights, we should have surrendered, but if we didn't fight them off, the nearby colony was doomed. We knew how most of our enemies treated their prisoners of war. By now, my hair was all grease, and I wiped a stinging wet sweat from my eyes. We were disassembling the ship in our underclothes by this point. The sweat wasn't just from exertion. We jettisoned our heat sinks and all but one of the radiators. Space combat wasn't just about speed. It was also about heat. Heat management was one of the primary determining factors in combat. But the contact speed of our first pass would be too high for lasers to be effective. Plus, we'd follow doctrine and put the ship into a sharp oscillating spin so lasers would never focus in one place for too long. If we won the initial pass by virtue of velocity, then the heat problem wouldn't matter. But if the fight dragged on, we'd boil alive. "Chin up first, mate." I whipped my head around. The captain had the uncanny ability to teleport wherever I was and say approximately the right thing based on what I was thinking. "We'll wipe them out in first pass. Engineering has assured me that we're going to be whipped fast." I nodded and tried to smile. My captain was good, easy to work under, assertive but never too harsh. The kind of officer you dreamed of in navigation school. But she could be wrong, and we were cutting it close. In the last 60 minutes before the first pass, time flew by like a whirlwind. We chunked out bunks by the dozen. We tossed out all food except protein cubes out the lock. The farm kids cried as they threw out crops and chickens. We watched onions and roosters freeze instantly and drift out into the black. The showers were jettisoned. The ventilators were jettisoned. The nukes and other weapons for groundwork were jettisoned. The personal devices, the combat suits, the labs, the pop-up tents, the monopropellant, the backup batteries, the nav tables, the decryption machines, the ansible, my socks and Christmas sweater. We tossed out everything not bolted down and half of what was bolted down as well. We cut the ship apart and then tossed out the tools that we had used to do it. I sighed from the bottom of my chest. I was exhausted. Collectively, the crew was a ball of sweat and nerves. But the captain peered down the room, observant as always. "Navigator," she said, calling our ship-based AI. "How much does your hardware weigh?" The Comtex hissed. "Oh, boy," said the AI, the human intonation almost perfectly. "I can lose all my SSDs except for the ones containing my last 5 yottabytes of data. I can lose my non-essential CPUs and graphics engines. The housings are negligible in weight, but can easily be removed, so you should toss those as well. Plus the crew consoles, which are mostly decoration, no offense. Everything else I will require to navigate you through the first combat pass, Captain." "Thank you," said the captain, while everyone else looked on in stunned silence. She just asked the AI to recommend the most efficient way to disassemble itself. And it had complied. "Wait," I said, the realization dawning on me. "Navigator just said it'll be navigating you through the first combat pass, not us. Please tell me that was not an oversight." The captain just stared at me. "What's the first thing they tell you in orientation at space school?" she said, sidestepping the question. It was a non sequitur, but I answered instantly. Space combat is not Star Wars. It's not fun or exciting. It's a lot of math and not a lot of bravery. All you glory seekers go join the Marines. Some of those around me laughed, while the detachment of Marines just grumbled. Then I remembered the last part. Also, you're stuck in a tin can, so you don't even get to watch. Captain nodded, the barrister grins in her face. "Well, first mate, on that last note they lied. This time, you get to watch." "Unbelievable," said the comms officer over the radio, scratching herself on the outside of the skin-tight suit. "This must qualify as desertion of duty." A Marine, floating half a kilometer away, reoriented himself and responded on the channel. "Hardly. Technically, we were the ones who left the ship. The captain and the AI are the only ones legally still in the line of duty." Craig, from engineering, shook his head while upside down, floating only a few meters from me. "All the crew together must only weigh a few thousand kilos. At most. I don't get it." "Speak for yourself," said the Comtech. "I'm on a diet." A free-floating subcorp from the navigation AI jumped in. "Every kilo counts. Besides, we're all much safer here than we would be on the ship during the first pass." "Can it, C-3PO? No matter how you cut it, this is a crazy Earth-Ocean captain. Down with your ship-heroic bullcrap insanity," said one of the ensigns. No officer corrected him. I saw a few nod in unison. And he was right. It was crazy, but it wasn't dumb. We had a chance to pull a trick on the aliens in their fancy campaigner, and maybe, just maybe, we'd beat them to the first pass. Maybe we'd save our colony and be a part of a small turning point in the godforsaken war. Our ship was already hundreds of kilometers away, racing towards the enemy. As the top of the chain of command at the present location, it was my job to inspire confidence. "We will win," I said, "and then she's coming back for us." I didn't say the subtext that we all knew out loud. If she didn't come back, we would freeze out here. With all of the weight that we'd trimmed, I had the faintest sliver of hope. But would it be enough? 2 computers ran calculations trying to expend as little heat as possible for as much density of data as they could manage. 2 computers expressed dismay. 2 captains, species apart but united in duty, looked at screens inside their tin cans. 2 captains hissed at what they saw. It was unbearably close, implausibly close. A few meters per second one way or the other would decide it. And a crew of humans, missing only their captain, watched helplessly from inside their spacesuits. 2 blips of light approached each other in the black of space. They passed. And then one burst apart in a flash of blinding light. End of story. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Fudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Athelia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.